I'm Joe from As the Joe Flies.
And I'm Leslie from Trips with Tykes.
And welcome back to Disney Deciphered. So on today's episode, back in December, I took a trip with my daughter and we stayed club level at Gran Destino. It's called the Chronos Club. And I realized we've done is concierge level, which is what it's called, Worth It on Disney Cruise Line, but we haven't quite done or it's been a while since we've done is club level Worth It at Walt Disney World. So we're going to talk a little bit about what club level is and whether it's worth it. And spoiler alert, why I think Gran Destino Tower, the Chronos Club at Coronado Springs, is the best value club level that you should actually strongly consider. Well, certain people should consider depending on what kind of Disney trip you are planning. But before we get to that, Leslie, as always, we want to give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers. Plus, we have some new ones. So who do we got today, Leslie?
Yes, today we're thanking new Patreon supporters Jen E. and Ann M. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Disney Deciphered. And there's all different options that you can sign up for to support us. And we give lots of bonus content and fun stuff, trip reports, unfiltered episodes, access to our Facebook group. So we'd love to have more folks there. It's been a fun community and growing. So we really appreciate that.
Definitely. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. Okay, so Leslie, in continuing with our 2025 tradition of adding links to actual websites instead of relying on Google, we did want to start this episode off with a shout out to mousehacking.com. They have a great breakdown of club level and what it includes and whether it's worth it. And most useful for us, a bunch of numbers, which I did not have the time to look up. So thank you to mousehacking.com. We will link that article in the show notes. And let's get to the episode, but wanted to start with a shout out for cite your sources, Leslie. Very important in this day and age. Let's start with the simple stuff like where can you stay club level? It's like rule of thumb, deluxe resorts, but it's a little bit different these days. So might as well, Leslie, tell us about where we can stay club level and the special names for all the clubs, because Disney has decided to give every single club a name, which I guess actually it's nice that they do that.
Yeah, it makes you feel special. So you can stay club level at Animal Kingdom Lodge. It's called the Kilimanjaro Club there. You can also stay club level at the Beach Club. It's called the Stone Harbor Club there. Boardwalk Inn also has club level, Innkeepers Club. Contemporary, it's known as the Atrium Club. And they also have the Tower Club as well. So two options there. Then Grand Floridian, it's the Royal Palm Club. Polynesian Village Resort, it's the King Kamehameha Club. I love that name. That's super great. And Wilderness Lodge, Old Faithful Club. Another quality name like that one. Yacht Club Resort, Regatta Club, Coronado Springs Grand Destino Tower, where you stayed, you already mentioned, is the Chronos Club. So quite the list. How many total is that, Joe? 10, 11?
I don't know. I was told there would be no math. Gran Destino Coronado Springs is notable because that's the only moderate on the list. Also, as an avid Dragon Ball fan, I always pronounce that Kamehameha, but I'm now thinking that perhaps what you said sounded more authentic
No.
Polynesian.
No,
so,
it's Kamehameha. I'm positive on that one. It's Kamehameha.
I mean, I am here shooting out my turtle fireballs. All two of you who are Dragon Ball fans out there know what I'm talking about. Today I learned that is not the King Kamehameha Club, which
Wait, is that something Japanese that you're mentioning, Dragon Ball?
It's Japanese,
Well,
yes.
that makes sense to me because in Japanese, they don't put an emphasis on any syllable. So it makes sense that they would say it that way because each syllable gets equal emphasis, but that's not Polynesian.
I mean, this is a Disney podcast, so I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but it is a fireball that you shoot out since we're on video, you hold your hands. Oh, I just hit my mic. You hold your hands like that and you shoot a fireball out of your hands. It is a classic. Okay, you know what? Let's move on. Sorry if you've already turned the episode off, but thank you for showing me the error of my ways.
It's applicable, Joe, because there are Disney resorts in both Hawaii and in Japan. So there's our tie-in right there.
Thank you. Great save. I'm pretty sure that they're not referencing Dragon Ball even in their Tokyo resort. But let's get to what comes with staying club level. So I'll talk about this a little bit. So Normally, you'll get a pre-trip phone call. They'll give you a call and ask for what you need and stuff like that. Mouse hacking says that your mileage may vary on that. All 3 times I've stayed club level, once was in Disneyland. I did get that phone call. I missed one thing that was annoying is I missed the phone call this year, and then I couldn't find a number to call back. I mean, they gave me a number to call back, but that obviously wasn't the club itself calling. Whereas when I got the call from Innkeepers Club at Boardwalk Inn 2 or 3 years ago, like the woman who called me, I met her in person when I got there. And so that was a really nice touch. So they'll give you a call if you are staying club level. If you see a 407 number anytime in the week leading up to your trip, just pick it up. In fact, I always pick up 407 numbers because, Leslie, you just never know when Disney's going to call you. You know, you want to take that call, that 407 number.
Travel agent problems.
Travel agent problems, or people who think that Disney actually cares about them problems. There's a dedicated check-in. I think that's really nice. Usually you can go straight up to the club to check in. This is during club operating hours, which is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. There's text and phone access to the club during the trip. Usually it's for advice. I don't use this very much, but I do think it's very useful for newer guests. I saw, for example, guests talking to the cast members at the Chronos Club, kind of working out some My Disney Experience stuff. And I can see that if you haven't been to Disney, not super used to being at Disney, having someone to text to ask questions, it's like a upgraded version of the MDE chat. So that's nice, but I have never like had any success with them getting dining reservations or anything like that. There are, I think every once in a while they might be able to get you a lightning lane, but when I say every once in a while, I mean like once in every like 500 guests or something like that. It's not something that you should expect, but you have someone to answer your questions if you need to. And then what is kind of the biggest thing about staying club level is having access to a club lounge. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what people can expect in a club lounge?
So it's very similar to what you'd expect in a club lounge at any, nicer hotel if you've ever experienced that. So at Disney, it's open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. You can pretty much have a full breakfast there, and then there's snacks and then a cocktail hour. So you can make a couple of meals out of the offerings at the club lounge. I mean, it's not as expensive as what you get at like a table service restaurant or something like that, but it's more than just, I mean, some club lounges at some hotels are really just drinks and then maybe nuts or chips or something like that. It's more than that. There actually are warm food options certain times of day and then heavier things that will fill you up for a meal. So it's not just food. It's also just a nice place to hang out and relax outside of the parks. You can get alcohol or other sorts of drinks. And then there's just lots of like table space or hangout space so that you can just, I mean, if you have to work in a Disney vacation, it's a great place to set up a laptop and like pound out a couple of emails if you're stuck in that kind of situation. But just great customer service, excellent cast members working those lounges who are very friendly and will answer your questions or just chit chat with you. Like I love chatting with cast members, and you can definitely do that in a club lounge.
Yeah, definitely agree on the customer service and just the friendliness of the staff in general. It's super helpful. All right, so let's get to the pricing, which is kind of the main thing. And again, shout out to Mouse Hacking for doing all this research. You know what? You should just check out their article. They looked up kind of what was the upcharge from the cheapest room at every hotel. It starts at $215 for Grand Destino Tower at Coronado Springs and goes all the way up to $500 at Grand Floridian. To note, these are the cheapest upgrades for each level. So like depending on the time of year, the upgrade might be more expensive. But in general, the cheapest upgrades are under $300 for the majority of the hotels, and then Animal Kingdom Lodge, Contemporary, and Grand Floridian, they all end up being like a $400 to $500 upcharge from the cheapest room. That is because Animal Kingdom Lodge club rooms, they're all Savannah rooms. So if you compare to like the Savannah room, it's only like 200 something dollars. Not only, but it's more in line with the jump at all the other hotels. And then same thing with the Contemporary. Like if you're comparing to a Garden Wing room, it's like $400 to $500 more expensive to go to the club. But if you're booking a main tower room, all the club rooms are in the main tower, so it's only like $200 to $300. Again, only is in scare quotes. And then finally, Grand Floridian. This is the only one where you are going to stay in the main building if you have a club level room, and that's the only way to get in the main building, to stay in a club level room. In fact, they do have outer building club level rooms, But just to be clear, like if you want to stay in the main building at Grand Floridian, like if that is your goal, your only option is to stay club level. And that's why it's $500 more even at its cheapest. Now, Leslie, I did look up some pricing for this year, didn't just steal all of Mouse Hacking's numbers, did some of my own research. So I picked 2 times of the year. The first thing I want to note is I did want to give a shout out again, as I've been doing quite a bit in 2025, for bounce back offers. For those of you who don't know, that is after you stay at Disney, you can, within 7 days, book a new trip for what I have found to be the best discount rates that you can get at Disney, even compared to their public facing rates. So I was able to find club level even for Coronado on bounce back. But some pricing that I got for the year from May 6th to 11th of 2025, Coronado rack rate $283 for a regular room, $640 for club. For the bounce back for Coronado is $198 versus $448, so much better on both rates there. Beach Club $683 versus $968, that was rack rate, and Boardwalk $682 versus $1,001 for rack rate as well. And then in December, similar, Coronado, it's like a more expensive time, but Coronado is $341 versus $784. Beach is $793 versus $1144, and then Boardwalk $821 versus $1183. So I would call it $250 at the cheapest, but I would say you're probably spending closer to $350 per night to upgrade to club level. And that's where we want to get down to, like, how much of that can you eat away with Diet Coke, Leslie? That's the real question. If it's me, all of it. But talking seriously, you know, I think it's a good question to ask, like, how much of $350 value can you get per night? So let's do some math here, break down what are some things that people can save money on if they're staying club level.
Sure. So the biggest one is breakfast, Joe. And that's where I think you're going to get a big chunk of that change back. So assume you're a family of 4. And if you're going to eat breakfast, you know, even like a quick service in the parks, you're talking probably up to about $50 for a family if you're going to eat breakfast. Now, if you're going to eat granola bar in the room, then maybe not as much of a savings. So that's where you're going to get a decent chunk of change for your family. And you have to consider, of course, in this, how many people are staying in that club level room. If you're traveling as a couple, you're paying that $250, $300 upcharge. Well, breakfast for 2 is not the same as breakfast for 4. So that's part of the calculation. And then I'd say you want to put maybe dinners, occasionally 1, 2, 3 dinners into the mix. So if you cut out a table service dinner and then you instead eat at the club and eat kind of snacks, you know, even just one day, that could save you a couple $100 one of those days. So, but you're not going to do that every day, right? I mean, you're at Disney World not to eat at a club level lounge. You're at Disney World to eat at the different restaurants and experience those kind of things, and maybe have a character meal and things like that. So you can't do this calculus every day of your stay. And so that's sort of what you have to think about if you're going to be on a 5-day vacation and maybe you skip 2 dinners, because I don't know about you, Joe, but I don't want to eat a table service dinner every day of a Disney World vacation. So I'm already going to be skipping and probably just grabbing like a burger quick service. So maybe that's the calculation that you're doing. Okay, well, I would have bought a quick service meal for my family, and instead of that, I'm swapping for eating at the club.
Yeah, I thought that was very useful. I will say that reverse pressure is some of the best character meals are breakfast. And then you're like, I don't want to eat the club breakfast, but then you're like, you know, and then you get into the situation where you're like, I don't want to eat the club breakfast, but I paid for this, blah, blah. So it gets tricky. I'll tell you the way that we circumvented that is we booked an 1150 1900 Park Fair breakfast and we ate club breakfast at 8 o'clock. And so we did both. And, you know, we basically ate brunch at 1900 Park Fair. Some other things that you can save money on. I joke about the Diet Coke, and I would, like, value wise, I would probably cap it out at $25 no matter how much Diet Coke you drink, just because, or soda, coffee, whatever, just because you could buy a refillable mug for $25. And yes, if you're a coffee drinker, the Nespresso machine, or I can't remember what brand they had, but it's nicer than just getting drip coffee from downstairs in your refillable mug. But for all intents and purposes, you're not going to spend more than $25 on drinks at your hotel. And remember, you're going to have to buy drinks in the parks, even if you have that refillable mug. So I would cap that out at $25 per person. And then alcohol, I would say on average, if you were going to drink alcohol, maybe 40, $50 a night. Like I don't know how much people would actually drink. That's across your room. Like for us, we wouldn't drink anything if we weren't staying club level, probably. Right? Maybe we'd take one drink once throughout our Disney World trip. We're tired enough. The alcohol is just going to put us to sleep. But if we're staying club level, we might get some alcohol, which I did on this last trip. If you're heavy drinkers, maybe. If you do like to, have a drink every day, then maybe this is going to be more worth it for you. But, I think for most people, plus your kids aren't drinking alcohol, so you can't include them into that price. So in the end, I say you could probably get $100 to $150. You could squeeze out $100 to $150 of value per night, maybe $200 if you're drinking. And then after that, the rest you're paying for service. So it's like $100 to $150 for the service and the experience, which in Disney math may not be that crazy, but that's, if we're putting numerical values on it, that's where I would end up with things. One extra note to stretch your dollar if you're going to be like this. It's one of those situations where like they'll let you in the club as soon as you get there. So if you, Leslie, are coming from California and you're red eye in, you can grab breakfast on your check-in day, even if your room isn't ready. And they also give you club access for the whole day of your checkout. So you could grab the hors d'oeuvres at the cocktail hour on your way out as well, which I did think can be very useful on a split stay. So that if you're doing a split stay, you send your bags to your new hotel, but maybe just enjoy the club until 7, 8 p.m. or swing back at your first hotel to enjoy the club. So just ways to stretch out your dollar if you're trying to squeeze every last drop of value out of the club. I do find most people who are doing the club experience, they're doing it because they can afford it and are not squeezing out every last dollar value. But if you want to, there's juice to be squeezed there. All right, let's end this section of the podcast by talking about who might want to consider staying club level. So we got a couple ideas here, Leslie. What do we got?
Sure. So first and foremost, if you're somebody who's wanting to do a Disney splurge, and I think a lot of us at this stage, you're maybe not doing the bargain basement Disney vacation. You want to splurge on something, right? Well, this is one of several different options. Maybe it's lightning lanes if you like rides. Maybe you just like a chill hotel experience where you feel like you're having a more luxury place to lay your head. Then that's what you should think about for club level. I mean, it's just a nice Disney splurge, and given how expensive so many of the other splurges are, maybe it's not that big of a Disney splurge, compare the cost of Lightning Lane. And then the second reason I would say is really just for convenience. This really does grease the wheels. If you're Disney vacation, like you say, you got there, your room wasn't ready, you could go to the club. If I were to, like you say, take a red eye in, having that amenity available to me so that I don't feel like I'm just like sitting in a hotel lobby or zombie somewhere, that's really nice. So you don't really have to scramble. It is a more chill kind of experience. You have a place the kids can wind down. You come back from the parks, they're crazy. You go get some food, wind down, and then go back to your room and put them to bed. That's really a nice thing. So other uses that you see?
I think, and by the way, I feel like this is the Disney Premier Pass equivalent, but for hotels, staying club level. But yeah, I think the last group I would say might want to consider splurging for club level is an adults only trip. If you're adults only, you're going to be able to get more, like you're going to eat more food, you're going to drink more, all that stuff. You're going to enjoy like being in the lounge more. Unfortunately, if you're on an adults only trip, someone's probably going to have to work, and that gives them a quiet place to work and not be in the room with everybody else. So I think that is something that I would consider and throw out there. Now, we're going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to talk about why I think Chronos Club, Coronado Springs, Gran Destino Tower, you should definitely consider, if you're going to stay club level, you should definitely consider staying club level there. So we're going to talk about that and my experience there right after the break. All right, Leslie. So I stayed at Coronado Springs, and just to talk a little bit about my experience, like I said, they called me the week before, but I didn't catch the call. I did end up calling back just to note an allergy. I also called back. Usually I use touring plans to make room requests, but when I called back, I requested a room on the 15th floor so that we wouldn't have to take the elevator to get to the club. And, you know, You never know whether it's because of what you did or not, but the person said, I will note this. In fact, they said, okay, I'm blocking this room out for you right now. And I can't know for sure that the room we got was what that person blocked out when I was on the phone with that cast member, but we got a room on the 15th floor. So that was great. We got there early. The room wasn't ready. So we just hung out in the lounge a little bit, had some snacks, ended up going to the parks. Probably the most negative part of our club experience was having to send our stuff to Bell Services, because when we got back from the parks, it was like late and then I had to wait a little while. You know how it is with little kids. Like, you're trying to shower them, get them to bed, but didn't have any clothes for that. I wouldn't say that's club level, or it's not even Bell Services issue. It's just, an issue of timing. The club is very nice at Gran Destino Tower. It's big and spacious. The biggest, I've looked at all the pictures. It feels like one of the biggest, at least. I don't know if it actually is the biggest square foot, but it definitely feels like that. You can tell that it was designed as a lounge. It's a great view, big windows. You can see both the Hollywood Tower and Spaceship Earth from there. Spaceship Earth is a little toward the side, but you can see both of them. They had a big spread of food, more than I remembered at Innkeeper's Club at Boardwalk Inn. There was like 3 different stations where there were food. So every time, breakfast and also for cocktail hour, it was 2 to 3 hot options, and then cold cuts. But like, when I say cold cuts, it's not just like ham, it's like prosciutto and stuff like that, vegetables, and then a third place where they would put food as well. So that was good. There was a lot of options. Fridge, coffee machine. Breakfast was great. There was continental section, then the aforementioned cured meats, but then also 2 or 3 hot items every day. One thing to note for people with allergies, it was very easy for me to get oat milk for my daughter every morning. So that was helpful. And then at cocktail hour, they catered food from Toledo. At least one of the dishes was catered from Toledo every night. So that was really great. And then finally, the club was just an overall nice place to hang out. They had a ton of board games, fancy board games. I sent you a picture of their super fancy Monopoly, Leslie. And then if you listen to my trip reports, if you're a Patreon subscriber, my 7-year-old and I played a ton of checkers. Could have saved hundreds of dollars by just buying a checkerboard. I made this joke already in Boston, but alas, we did not. So we had a lot of fun just hanging out there. So it was great. But really, Leslie, why is this the best value? Well, look at the prices that I mentioned in the first section. In December, Coronado's club level is $784. Beach Club's rack rate cheapest room is $793. So it's the same price as staying at Deluxe. And I present this to you, Leslie. You're going to lose the extended evening hours, but I don't know, like, if I'm already in a Deluxe level budget, like, maybe consider staying club level at Coronado Springs instead.
Yeah, I agree. And especially if you have younger kids who can't do extended evening hours anyway. I mean, my teenager could, but my 11-year-old still, that's too late for him the vast majority of the time. So we would get a lot of value with like a family of 4 vacation, and certainly would have gotten a lot of value 5 years ago if this had been the same, these offerings had been the same at the time. So that's something to think about for like the ages of your family. Like, when are you going to be? Are you going to be an up early family? Are you going to be an out late family? And when will you be hitting the club and getting value out of it? But yeah, if you're already at a deluxe level, I am very tempted. I have not been a fan of Coronado over the long history of it. Even when Gran Destino was built, I was like, well, it's just more expensive and you're still taking buses. So yes, you're going to get a tower, but you're still taking buses. You're still not getting Skyliner. You're not getting monorail, whatever. And now that this is like potentially in play, this could tempt me at some point in time.
Yeah, I will note that it wasn't too far to get to the pool, but the pool was not as fun as I remembered it. It was a little smaller than I thought, and the slide was not as fun as, Caribbean Beach's pool. I was thinking back to our Moderate Resorts episode. That was episode 342. I prefer Caribbean Beach Resorts pool, but it was not as far a walk as I thought. Like, one of the bridges that goes across the lake in the middle was pretty convenient, so that wasn't bad. I should also point that it was like 68 degrees out when we went swimming, so it wasn't super warm or anything like that. But yeah, we enjoyed our experience. I think it was, obviously we weren't getting as much value as we could have because it was just me and a 7-year-old, but with a 7-year-old, Like, she wanted to spend a lot of time there. When we got back to our room, she wanted to go there to relax. She wanted to play checkers. She wanted to go check out the snacks. And we spent, like, with a 7-year-old, you spend more time, and if they're even younger, even more so, you spend more time at your hotel than in the parks. So that trade-off with extended evening hours, it was not bad at all. I think the other thing is that buses were not a problem. I just used the app to find out like when the buses were coming. And so that didn't hurt us too much. I did say on my trip reports that Lyft was like $10 to get back. So I just would bus to the parks and then spend $10 to come back. I think that's the other downside of staying at Coronado Springs. You're not walking distance or Skyliner distance from any of the parks, but I think that ended up being okay. But again, I think to me, the main thing is, hey, this costs as much as a deluxe resort. So if I'm in the deluxe resort budget, I should at least consider staying at Coronado Springs club level at least once. I will say the other tough thing, and this especially affects us, all the rooms are only for 4, except for the presidential suite, Leslie, which is like $2,000 a night or something like that, which even I cannot Disney math that. And so for my family of 5, I think what's going to end up happening is next time I stay club level, it's going to be because my wife stayed home because she didn't want to come.
Yeah, no good for families of 5. But for those of us who only have 2 kids, Joe, there you go. It'll work out for us. Well, let's close this out, Joe, with our Disney do or don't. What's your club level do or don't?
All right. So my club level Disney do or don't is, once you have committed to club level, once you're there, don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. We've talked about this many times for all Disney vacations. The money's gone. You've spent it. Don't feel like, just the more you put pressure on yourself to go to breakfast, force your kids to wake up before 10 a.m. if they're really exhausted from the night before, just so that they can get breakfast or whatever, just the worst time you're going to have. So don't, like, once you've paid it, there's nothing you can do about it unless something really goes wrong, in which case Disney will make good if something really does go wrong. But for little things, just let them go. Just enjoy your experience. Oh, I will note that they have no problem with you taking food out of the club. So if your kids are asleep, then just get the food and bring it to them for when they wake up. But don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. You've spent the money. You're not getting it back. Just enjoy it as much as you can.
Totally agree. Why don't you talk to my husband about that?
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. Leslie, where can people find your work on the internet if they'd like to see what other Disney and travel related content you have out there?
Tripswithtykes.com, at tripswithtykes all over social media. And where can folks get in touch with you, Joe?
You can find me at As Joe Flies all over social media. Joseph Chung at travelmation.net. That's M as in Mary. If you'd like to use my help booking a Disney trip. Other than that, you can connect with the podcast, Disney Deciphered at gmail.com, at Disney Deciphered all over social media, at WWDeciphered if you're looking for us on Twitter. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. We really appreciate you listening. And other than that, Leslie, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And I will see you at Chronos Club.
Thanks, Joe.